Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank our witnesses for their service. The United States is leading international efforts to help Ukraine defeat Russia's abhorrent and utterly unprovoked invasion of its sovereign territory. These efforts are necessary to stop Russia in its tracks now before it attacks a NATO partner, triggers Article 5, and puts U.S. service members in harm's way. Equally important, U.S. support for Ukraine demonstrates to the dangerous and volatile regimes in Tehran, Pyongyang, and Beijing, and elsewhere that the United States is prepared to meet any threat to its partners and meet it with strength and resolve. The deterrent power of this signal is critical for international security. We must continue to ensure our support for Ukraine is as efficient and effective with the proper transparency and oversight I think you all are providing as possible. I appreciate our witnesses' important work in this regard. Deputy Inspector General Angalera, put simply, how many audits are being conducted of U.S. direct budget support to Ukraine, including by the World Bank, the government of Ukraine, USAID Inspector General?
For USAID Inspector General, our planned and ongoing work includes 22 separate audits. That includes the direct budget support in all of USAID's programming. I could get back to you. I'm not sure exactly how many reports between the World Bank, between their third-party auditor that they've contracted, between USAID's 6-month reporting to Congress and Deloitte's reporting. It's a substantial amount.
We'd like to get that figure. That would be very helpful for committee just as a whole. Congress requires that prior to obligating any direct budget support funds, the Secretary of State and USAID administrator must, and I quote, certify and report that mechanisms for monitoring and oversight of such funds are in place and functioning, and that the government of Ukraine has in place substantial safeguards to prevent corruption and ensure accountability of such funds. The IGs for the State Department and USAID are also required to report to Congress about your assessment of these monitoring mechanisms and safeguards, I'll say. Deputy Inspector General Angalera and Shaw, what is your assessment of these monitoring mechanisms and safeguards? Are they adequate to detect any potential misuse of U.S. direct budget support? I'll start with you, Ms. Angalera.
Sure. Thank you for that question. And we've recently issued a joint report looking at whether or not the World Bank mechanisms and oversight controls that are established right now meet GAO's internal control standards. And our assessment and evaluation is that they do. The next report that we're working on is looking at the effectiveness of how those mechanisms are working. And that's our next step in our process.
Ms. Shaw.
And for our part, we looked at the Department of State certification process and whether that was consistent with their typical process and well-informed. And we, in the 2 reports that we've issued to date, certified that they had followed their process.
Great, thank you very much. Deputy Inspector General Angalera, USAID has contracted Deloitte to work with Ukraine's Ministry of Finance to review its internal monitoring, transparency, verification, and reporting systems and procedures. Have you evaluated Deloitte's work with Ukraine's Minister of Finance, and how do you assess the systems and procedures of Ukraine's Ministry of Finance?
Sure. With respect to the work that we've done, we have access to Deloitte's reports that they provide to USAID. They just issued a report in January, and our audit team that is focused solely on direct budget support and oversight of it reviews those reports and identifies if there are any areas or flags of concern for fraud that we would want to do a deeper dive and look into. As of today, in all of the reports our independent team has assessed, no such instances have occurred.
And they've been working specifically with Ukraine's Minister of Finance in this regard, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I've completed my questions, and I yield back to the chair. Thank you.